Never heard that before. All right. Anyways, welcome everybody to November, the week before Thanksgiving. So it looks like we've got about 15 people in here and some new faces. I want to welcome Jerry Brown, director, I believe you're director of transportation down in Vail. So Jerry, if you want to say hi to everybody, and welcome you in. Just kind of go over, it's going to be a short, fairly short agenda. I think the big topics today are how many schools are closing and just try and get a feel of that and what that looks like for everybody. I know bus evacuations questions have been coming up, so maybe if anybody wants to share what they've been doing, and then we'll just talk about the 100-day report, which is coming up in January. Any information that anybody wants to share or what their plans are for completing that in on their 100th day. I guess I shouldn't say January because maybe some of us have been pushed back to February. So great to see everybody again, and we'll just kind of get right into it. Anybody want to celebrate anything maybe before we get into it? Celebrations.
Yeah, so I think we can celebrate the fact that we haven't had any Kyrene transportation staff impacted by COVID. None of our staff have come down with the virus, and so I'm pretty happy about that, and I think that speaks to our sanitation.
We just had Microshield come out and spray our buses, kind of like what they did at Alhambra, and that's where I got the idea from. So they just did that on the 14th. Did our whole fleet and did our plant services building, and you know, as far as I know, they did an excellent job, and it was pretty inexpensive for our 33 buses and our building. It was like $3,500, and you know, considering that, you know, the specialty type application it is. And now we're talking about going through and doing our whole district, kind of like Alhambra district did. You know, Vanessa sent the information out a few weeks ago, and we just jumped on it and thought it would be something that would help provide another layer of protection for our staff.
So tell us, maybe for those who didn't know about that, Armando, just a quick summary of what Microshield is. I believe it's a coating, if you will, right, that allows some additional sanitation?
It's like an antibacterial compound that they go through and spray on surfaces. You know, considering school buses, we get all kinds of different things going on in there, you know, from kids licking the windows and the seats and touching everything and all that. So they spray it on. It's kind of like the electrostatic spray application. Mm-hmm. And they showed us kind of a video of it, and it the way they explained it, it's like a billion little knives sitting on the counter surface or the seats or whatever, waiting for the virus or the flu or whatever to come falling down through the air and landing on these surfaces, and then these little knives kind of just go up and chop everything up before they land, and it doesn't give them a chance to just, you know, spawn into a more deadly situation.
So does that eliminate the need to have to actually spray and wipe sanitation? No. Okay, just wondering.
They said, do you still want to maintain your same disinfection and cleaning regimen that you have? It's good for up to 12 months, and you would have to constantly clean 24 hours a day, you know, for a period of time for it to wear off. So it doesn't wear off with normal cleaning and everything. And the only type of cleanser that would actually weaken it is if you were to use a high acidic cleaner like oven cleaner or something like that. The bleach and normal disinfection and stuff won't wear it down. so we're going to try it. All we can do is hope that it provides another layer of protection. Like I said, drivers are still going to do their mitigation like they're supposed to, and then the state required cleaning that we're supposed to do every day. And see, hopefully it cuts back on, some of our people getting sick or whatever. It's, like I said, it's good for cold, flu, the COVID virus, any other kind of stuff that we have coming onto the school buses.
Hey, Armando.
Yes.
Do these, I'm going to assume that the vehicles have to be clean to start with. So
Yes.
like you can't have the layer of dust because they've been
Correct.
sitting since summer before you spray them.
Correct. I had my drivers for the 2 weeks before they came out to do this, go through and do a cleaning of the buses, because one, when we were told to shut down in March, it came quick and the drivers didn't get to do their end of the year cleaning and all that. So our buses were still kind of, dirty, I guess. And plus, after sitting there for several months of not doing anything, like you said, the dust and everything just settled. So our drivers came through and detailed everything and got them cleaned up before they came out, so that the compound could be put on a decently, clean vehicle. And same thing with the offices. We had the offices done, and everybody that was here went through their own area and made sure that everything was cleaned off. We cleared off all the desks, took all the paperwork and everything off, and that way the coating could go on clean desktops, countertops, anything that was in your office that people continually touch all the time.
Thank you for that. Anybody else want to share any just celebrations before we get into anybody shutting down? I think Tommy said yesterday, 17 days of school left.
17 days of school left. Yes, yes. The winter break.
Interesting how the pace is so different, but it's still a different exhausting.
This year it's more, it seems, and I'm sure you guys, it's a mental exhaustion this year. I mean, we're physically exhausted every year and there's some sort of mental, but I think this year the mental exhaustion has put us all over the edge, because it's one day to another. We never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what day A is going to bring or day B is going to bring, because day A, you find out B is different. And then on B, what they wanted you on B is now different. You're back to 8.3. And then all of a sudden you jump to Y. So it's a mental exhaustion. So I'm glad there's only 17 days left.
I did have a driver come to me yesterday. We removed him from the route because he told me, he says, with all these changes every day around the world and all this, I can't cope with this, and I think I'm going to lose it, and I'm getting to the point where, I may explode, blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
And some of my staff is working at schools, and I have some people like this person who comes in and does one route and then goes back to their school. I said, you know what? Stay at your school. Get away from us. It's not that we don't want you here, but I think for your own mental being, because he was getting upset with having to disinfect the bus, and he was saying it was taking him 30 minutes to do it and everything, and he just couldn't deal with it. So I just said, don't worry, we'll cover your route. Go stay at your school and do what you need to do there, because it seems like you're happy there. But know that when we do reopen, all of this will still be here, and you will still have to disinfect in a timely manner, and that it doesn't take you 30 minutes to disinfect the bus and be safe and everything else. And, he's fine with it. We're fine with it. But I think we, kind of averted a situation that might not have been very good in the end. So for everybody. But at least he was honest enough to tell us that. Some people, are everywhere. It's not just in transportation, but everywhere you're seeing people that are kind of freaking out and not knowing how to handle stuff like this, and they keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and then you know, there's a possibility of something else happening that isn't real fun. So.
So I know that there's, what's the word I'm looking for? I just, there's several districts that actually made it back to just about everybody in school in some form, way, shape, or form beyond just the virtual learning. Has anybody transitioned back away from that? And now that we're seeing a spike climb in the state, that have their district has come out and said, we're going to go ahead and go move everybody back to being virtual. Armando, I know that you never came out of it. I don't think Flagstaff ever came out of it. Anybody else that's in here before we share about what Kyrene is doing? I know Tommy's transitioned already back. Anybody else that actually got all of their staff, all of their routes back and running and has made the transition back, or any plans to do so?
Yeah, we went here in Yuma, we went to hybrid here about a month and a half ago with both of our districts. And starting next week, they're going to be going back to remote learning because of the increased cases.
So they're going to do that in next week for Thanksgiving, or are they going to start that after Thanksgiving?
Well, the one district goes 2 days next week, so they'll be starting that week. And the other district, the elementary district, will start on the 30th when they come back to school.
Got it.
So we did go hybrid, which for busing purposes and stuff was working well. But with the increased cases that they had in the community, and then the students that were coming to school that were infected, they had closed the schools now and going back to the remote learning model.
Did they put a timeline on it, Ron, like an end date or a projected end date of the second remote learning?
No, what they're doing here is they're all going by the benchmarks. If the benchmarks are all green for 2 weeks, then we go to hybrid. If they get into red for more than 2 weeks, then we go back to distance learning. So
How's your community?
What's that?
How are parents?
They're doing fine. They seem to be adjusting well to it. And we have the parts of the community that are saying, just open the school and let us go. And then you got the others that, are really concerned about, the distancing and things like that in the schools. When the administrators talk about the cases that are coming up or the increased cases, they're saying that it's not being spread in the schools, or they're not being spread on the bus to each other because of the practices that we're putting into place. It's out in the community that they're not practicing it or catching it. Family members and things like that are going on. Then they're coming to school sick. And then of course you got to count them as sick kids in school. And then you're outside of that parameter or benchmark for it, and you go back to remote learning. So I see this as just kind of yo-yoing like this for the better part of the year.
Mike, you want to share what's going on in Littleton?
Yeah, Jason, thank you. Yeah, we went back to a hybrid, but a week ago, last Monday, so almost 2 weeks ago now, we went back to all virtual. And currently we are now out till January 4th. But if our numbers keep doing what they've been doing, we won't even be coming back then. So, and the same thing with the community. I mean, some of the community members are okay with it and some of them are not so much okay with it, but we got to do what's best for the students and the staff and the community as well.
Yeah, at Litchfield, we're still virtual, and we're being notified today that we're going to be through winter break, and then we'll take a look again for January. We just don't know yet. But looking at the numbers that were released yesterday, I mean, we jumped over 100 cases per 100,000. So I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. So
here at Benjamin Franklin, we have been full-time since the beginning of September. And there are some remote, but very few. Mostly everybody is going to school. Our staff is all here. We've been really lucky. Nobody's gotten sick. I just came back from being on lockdown for 2 weeks because they said that I had been exposed to COVID, but I tested negative and everyone, and I never got the symptoms. But we have been fully staffed, full buses, well, not full buses, COVID regulations buses since September.
How many kids are you transporting, Kim?
Currently we're transporting 150 kids.
Got it. Nice.
Anybody else want to share? Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Sorry. When someone is tested or when you do hear of anyone testing positive or being exposed, what is your district doing as far as, do you notify the parents? Do you notify the staff? Do you notify, how are you guys doing notifications at your district?
I can take that first one. Kim, at Litchfield, we hired someone as a seasonal position. It's just kind of our COVID person for staff. Principals are pretty much taking the lead for the students, but if there's a direct contact with a student and a staff member, like a driver, I'm notified and the driver is notified. If it's an indirect, it's a letter given to them that it was an indirect. Indirect, and then kind of just watch the symptoms. But if it's on this bus, we notify the driver, but we're not notifying everyone in our department. It's kind of one of those, it's no one else's business kind of thing. And it's some things that we've had to have the discussion with some drivers because they're like, well, we're not being told. Well, it wasn't your bus. But we are notifying when they're involved, but it's not a blanket across the department of who's testing positive or who's not. On the employee side of it, it's nothing that we're discussing with the entire department either. It's something that's just discussed with that employee, and the director and supervisors kind of know. So it's kind of like back and forth. You kind of have to look at the whole situation. You don't want to notify everyone because it really doesn't pertain to them, but at the same time, you don't want to create that fear either. Does that make sense?
It does, and we kind of do the same thing here. My concern is I have a small district, a small staff, and they're together a lot. And we have weekly meetings. They're in those meetings. They wait together in this one area to go out on their buses. So we've only had it happen one time where it was on one bus, one driver. It affected one student tested positive, but they determined that it was just the kids that needed to be notified and parents that were in 6 feet of that student. But again, like I said, my concern for my staff is that if we don't notify them, which they didn't, the drivers told each other, of course, but I personally don't feel I'm being fair to them when they're in such close contact with each other. It's not like, we're not a big district where some people hang out and there's, some people don't hang out with each other. Everybody is around each other here.
Well, yeah, and I get that, Kim. I think a lot of it just, you've got to look at whatever your charter district has put together for their COVID response plan and what that timeline or checklist is. I know CDC and Arizona Department state that it's 15 cumulative minutes within 6 feet with or without a mask. You kind of go through. If they're hanging out outside of your place or in your department or in your building, that's where we kind of have to mitigate what's going on and making sure that they're physically distancing and we're encouraging everything that's being followed. But if it's not a direct with them, and if one of your drivers got an indirect and then they were hanging out with someone else and they feel that we're not being transparent with them, it's kind of two different issues. And I know this is like going down a whole rabbit hole, and I can see Eric just kind of rolling his eyes at me because he sees it already. It's a whole rabbit hole we have to be careful with. But because we also have to follow, that confidentiality for our employees also. So what I'm suggesting is don't feel as if you're letting them down, because you're not. We have the protocols that are set by our districts and by your charter as well. And that's what we have to follow, because that's what's going to keep us on the up and up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't don't feel like you're letting them down. I've had that feeling also. We've gone through a few employees that have tested, and then other drivers that have gotten the indirect. I think I've gotten like 8 indirect letters myself from when I was driving, just regarding the students and being on different vehicles. And I'm not out telling my staff, hey, I got an indirect letter. So don't put that on you for that mental health piece of it, Kim, because that's just going to drive you crazy. And in the position that we're in, we've got to stay above and beyond for our staff, and then have that one person in our office that we can break down with.
Yeah, I definitely think that the piece, our staff is wanting, like, they want immediate information. And what we're trying to let them know is there's a process that we're trying to follow, and that we don't obviously want to put the cart before the horse and come out and misspeak to somebody about something that, you know, just because we see an email pop up. And so we're letting them know there's a process. And as soon as we're directed by our emergency management team to communicate where the letter needs to go or have that verbal conversation with them, that's when we will do it. So, you know, we just keep staying out in front of them with Zoom meetings and email communications once a week, just letting them know. And, you know, unfortunately, we're in a time where everything's changing, seems like every day. So what was good yesterday is different today. And, you know, we've had students where originally they were going home for quarantine because they were a first or secondary exposure, so they were going to go home. Normally they were going to call parents. Now they're allowed to ride the school bus. So, you know, those things that we originally started with a few weeks ago or back in October has already completely changed 180 degrees in the opposite direction, you know, now. And now we're getting ready to shut everything back down. So, you know, I think that it's just really how you spell it out to your staff and just let them know that there is a process that we have to follow.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So of those people that shared that they're going back to virtual full learning, what's the plans for for your staff? Are they going to be going back to schools to work? Are you keeping them in your department to clean buses or handle transportation for those kids that are still needing on-site support? Anything that looks different than what was going on in August when we came back from virtual learning?
Well, we're doing all three of those things. And we are going to have all of our staff continue to work every day.
It's a bonus.
We've been able to keep them in-house here at Litchfield just because of Safe Place. I still have 23 buses running. So what we've been able to do is kind of double up drivers on a route to help out as monitor. And then if something comes up, someone's there to drive it and know where they're going. So it's been nice, but I feel like I'm losing some of them because they're getting bored.
Anybody that's Tommy, so you don't have any staff working at school sites?
I do not, because they're all taken up here with the number of drivers taking off for medical stuff, which I totally get. They're taking advantage of this time to go out and get things done, since they're not desperately needed to drive. But so like today, I think there's 9 people that called in today, and there were like 4 others that were scheduled off. So, you know, we're using everyone.
Is your district granting leaves, like leaves of absences for this?
They are. Yes, they will grant the leave of absence. I had one that actually just came back this week as we went into virtual. They came back from leave of absence, but they are granting it as long as it's not detrimental to the operation of my department for what I need. They will.
And is it an unpaid leave, Tommy?
Our board approved in September a voluntary furlough for someone to leave unpaid and then come back. We have not enacted any of that yet, but their leave of absence is unpaid, and most of our guys are okay with that. The big thing for them was they didn't want to lose their insurance during this time.
Sure.
So
We have staff working out at the schools and some staff working in transportation and a couple individuals working in the operations department on one couple on the grounds crew. And then we're using 2 of them actually to clean smoke detectors out of the school building. So we're keeping all of our transportation and people busy.
Good to hear. Anybody else?
did anyone jump back into food delivery when you went virtual? We did right away. I've got 3 buses out doing food delivery.
We'll be starting that on the 30th as well.
I've got 6 routes doing food delivery right now. And we've been that way since March.
Yeah, we scheduled to go down. I don't want to say we have an emergency board meeting. I think he pulled it together for Monday to, instead of waiting for the numbers on the 26th, making that call on Monday, that we'd be back to virtual on the following Monday, which I thought was the right thing to do. At first, they were going to wait till Thursday and send an email home on Thanksgiving evening.
Nice.
And yeah, I was like that. I was like, sir, with all due respect, man, I know we're at 995, but let's just assume it's going to happen. And if we're wrong, let that be the first day of only one being in the red. And if the next week is again yellow, then we can, go out or we can return. But I heard that he changed his mind from our meeting and is definitely pulling together the board. So right now, the second challenge they gave me, I just literally, while I was late to the meeting, and thank you for hosting a meeting again, was that I was waiting for an answer on whether we're moving special ed. So I got the answer, we are going to move special ed. So I'll have about half the crew if they register for transportation. I'll have about half the crew running special ed routes, and then the other half the crew will get reassigned out to sites to support the learning labs, the DUCY labs. And that's what we're planning right now. Whether it doesn't matter whether I agree or not, but as many driving, as many doing what they normally do. And then on that food service question, I've already told food service that my people that run an AM and PM, not preschool run in the middle, but AM and PM special ed run, could certainly run a food service route midday. So I think we're going to be doing 3 to 5 food service routes. She's unfortunately out today, so couldn't talk with her on that, but we'll talk on Monday, probably beginning the 30th as well. We'll put food back out into the neighborhoods.
Good stuff. I mean, we're doing all the same. For food service, we haven't been doing or will be doing food service. It's been all site pickup for families from all of our locations. They've just been doing that. We haven't heard anything as far as food deliveries are going to be needed or instructional stuff, delivered or anything like that. I think they're going to expect all of the students to take all that home with them here in the next 3 days. We just got the formal communication that we're going to go ahead and shut down as of the 30th. So we're going to have 3 days of learning next week, and then everybody will transition back to online. But we will move our special needs students, our McKinney-Vento students, and have some kids club, before and after school stuff that we're going to be transitioning. So it's going to be, interesting. Obviously, the first time we did it, we lost like 10 drivers, I want to say, and, kind of dug back out of the hole, hiring people over time. We hired some of them back once we came back into that hybrid model, but it's, do they decide that they don't want to go work in a school again and resign again? So our district didn't have the opportunity or hasn't provided an opportunity for a furlough or voluntary furlough. We're trying to broach that subject with them next on Monday coming up to hopefully see if that would be an available option. But we're also afraid that if we provide that as an available option, that we're going to have too many people that take advantage of it, and then we're not going to have enough support staff for on-site learning. So just a lot of different variables. Our district's been really adamant about the science behind it and just the metrics and not making any emotional decisions. We've seen Paradise Valley has parents out in front of their district office rallying right now, about the closures. So, it's obviously hot on everybody's mind. So I want to kind of transition away from this. I think that we've obviously had some good conversations here. with these sessions and all the sessions that we've had prior, but getting some other questions coming up as far as bus evacuations. Has anybody heard from DPS? I don't think anybody's heard from DPS. They haven't come out and formally said they're on hold, or if you need to do them, they've kind of danced around the subject. But has anybody successfully implemented or completed their fall bus evacuations that they want to share what they've done?
Jason, Janisa said that we are not having to do evacuations yet. And then I confirmed it with Patricia.
Perfect. So it'd be nice if they would send out a formal communication saying that to everybody, right? Which has been an ongoing issue with, with DPS. We don't get formal communications, but I just, in the last few months, it's been danced around, and I know that Jennifer is no longer there. DPS has now been moved under a completely different department within DPS. So the student transportation unit is now under, I think, administrative and licensing or something like that. So that is different, hasn't been communicated to anybody, and they don't even have an office right now, I believe. So just
I have an email from, I don't know how you say her name, Janessa. I do have an email from her.
Yeah, and again, just, maybe if you can pass it along, that it'd be nice if they would just send it out to all their entire distribution list to share that, because I don't think it's getting.
I have asked that, but I haven't seen it happen. So
right.
I don't know if they're just not wanting, if it's just if somebody asks, or I don't understand either why nothing's being sent out. But
yeah. And I think it also depends on who you talk to there, because I know that the TAA president, Mike Adjaman, had reached out to them last month and got kind of a, if you think you can do them, go ahead and do them in a socially distant manner, but they weren't technically postponed. So I think they're trying to hold people to, keeping to that and doing that. But again, if they're committing to saying that they're postponed indefinitely until we can physically do them, then so be it. We heard from Josh over at Higley yesterday that he showed their bus evacuation video, at least in the classroom, so that at least it was getting the information out there. They didn't go ahead and do them. I've heard other people suggest like just doing them with their bus riders as they're approaching the school, just kind of talking about some of the things to do in event of an emergency, and then just going out the front doors if there was, potential emergency or hazard in the back of the bus. So at least, keeping that in the forefront and doing it without doing it, so to speak, for the whole school.
mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to potentially share before we move on to 100-day report? See Flagstaff notes, we've done drop and go in the past, which is bus riders on the bus bay on that day of school. Dysart haven't done any evacuation. So just sharing some of the notes that are coming through here in the comments. But anyways, moving on to 100-day report, obviously we're here probably, I don't know, five or so, 6 weeks away from everybody's potential 100th day of school if they actually started on the first week of August. I know ours is going to get pushed back because we didn't initially start until the 17th of August. But does anybody want to share what they're doing as far as, tracking all of the additional costs and mileage that they may have incurred for their 100th day?
Same old, guys? Are you doing it a little different because you had some different summer components, or separating your COVID miles from your student miles?
Well,
my intention, unless somebody has a really good idea in this meeting, was because my understanding is that we're going to get the greater of the two. So my intention was just to report my information accurately from our first day to our 100th day, using the bus rider, ship, everything the same as I normally would, and that would be lower and it may not look good, whatever. But just, with the new ADE guys, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So I was just going to report it factually and hope they allowed to default to next, to last year. Unless it benefits me, then I'll cry for this year. But yeah, that was my intention, just to do it as however it comes out using the formula.
I'm doing the same, Eric. We have separated out COVID miles just in case they come back and want something, but I plan on turning everything in as route miles. If I've had kids to and from school for Safe Place, for any of that, I'm going to count it as route miles. And then McKinney-Vento miles, I don't have any individual ones, but I'm just doing it as we did every year. The numbers are going to be scary, scary low. But like you said, from what we're being told, we're going to get the difference between that and before. So I'm just reporting it as is. My poor boss has to listen to me complain about my classroom dollar report because I'm so nervous about it, and I don't want to be high across the board, but
Right.
I know it's going to be, because that's something I take personally, is when that
Me
report
too.
comes out, am I where I should be? Am I low, very low? And I'm just freaking out about the very high. She says she's not going to fire me, but I may get beaten in the back with a bus broom. I don't know yet.
Well, I mean, just for the record, I came out high for the first time in my career, but it was a mathematical thing where we were able to, using the formula, factual information, would withstand audit, eke out a little bit more money. Warning was that I'm going to be read on that report, and when I go to get another job, somebody's probably going to want to hire me. And
just tell them your back isn't working.
Yeah, that didn't help. So we did. It was hilarious. So, and when the auditor said, "Well, how did this happen?" And then my boss said, "We're going to go in and redo the last 3 years," and we eked out about another 12,000-15,000 in the 3 previous years. So we got a big check, and everybody's really happy till the report came out, and then they asked me what the hell I did. And that was odd. I was like, do you not remember you chose the money instead of the report? But it was a conscious decision. I'm still here. So you know how that goes when you talk about your boss. But, yeah, it was, we found we had an opportunity to eke more money out using the formula. But I mean, it was nothing magical. It was just trying to get to another, whether it was 1.0 miles or staying under 5.
Yeah.
0.5.
She's over here. That's why I'm giving her grief.
Yeah, I got you. Well, and I know you said she's the best business manager in the business. I remember you saying that earlier in the meeting before she was in there.
That's right.
Like mine. Mine is wonderful. I mean,
you might get to keep your job now, Tommy.
But yeah, so it was odd, but yeah, the report went to red. But I mean, we knew it would. I mean, it was just it was what had to happen. But we made more money. We brought more money in. So,
and we're all just going to have to accept the fact that every single one of us is going to be over where we want to see it this year, and breathe, do our conscious discipline training from TAA, and just breathe and get over it. So.
Has anyone had to contact ADE School Finance? I guess they have a new help desk ticket system to contact them. I've had to, since I came back to work on September 1st, I've been trying to get them to reopen the vehicle inventory report, because obviously I was sick with COVID in July when the report was due. And I did my 915 letter and everything, but since September 1st, I've been trying to get school finance to contact me through this ticket system, and they're not responding at all.
Armando, I put my request in on August 5th, and I did not get a call back from them until October 5th.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. And then they only leave it open, I think, for about 5 days. So
yeah, I think it's 10 days, wasn't it, Tommy? They keep it open for 10 days.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
and
I
I,
had
Mine
mine
was the
for
same
it said
thing.
10, but
Yeah.
for 5 of them, no one was there for me to get any other stuff. But yeah, it
Yeah.
takes about a good 2 or 3 months before they'll get back to you.
Yeah, and Armando, it was the same for me. It was my boss, because they have to sign the letter,
right,
put in, and he kept asking me about it. And I almost had forgotten about it. And all of a sudden we get a thing, hey, your previous year's open. And so we had to jam and get it done. But yeah, it takes a while.
so I won't worry then.
Same here.
I still have another month to go.
It took about 3 months to open it, and then they were pressuring me to get it finished. They're like, "Hey, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet?"
Yeah.
Like, took you
Yeah,
3
and I
months.
know it has to be done. I just want to be able to go in there and put my miles in and see where we're at.
It's a good thing I had notes on what I needed to change
Yeah.
because I forgot I submitted it.
We've got about 10 minutes left. Anybody, we just open the floor if anybody has any just general questions or anything, statements, comments that they want to make.
Well, I just want to say again, Jason, thank you for hosting these, because this has been a little glimpse of light for me every time we have one, because I get to talk to our peers. I mean, I love our admin team, but they don't always understand what we do. And talking with you guys at least is that little bit of a, oh, okay, I'm in the right direction, I think, because everyone else is doing it. And I'm not out on a limb by myself. So again, thank you.
You're
for
not the
that,
only
Jason.
one.
I appreciate it.
For sure.
Mhm.
And it's helpful to take information from these meetings and take it back to the superintendent and say, hey, this is what the peers are, this is what my peers are doing and how they're accomplishing it.
And they can even go back and watch it too. Remember, you guys, that's
On
sometimes
our, on the
powerful
TA
with our
YouTube,
leadership.
yeah. And I'm excited to have Megan here to watch it today. I keep telling her about it, and she's always so busy doing stuff. So she's actually listening in. So I'm excited to have one of our super admin here to see what we actually do, and that we don't just play around all day.
I've been wondering what he does for a
Oh.
long time, so this is very helpful.
All right, we'll keep him on track for you.
Please.
Brian, you got some?
I was just how many of you are also managing your white fleet? When over the summer, ADOT and MVD, they have a new system where you have to create an account with MVD. And when you're mentioning having trouble getting with the ADE, so I've been having trouble with MVD, just trying to get them to call back and help out. I wonder if anybody else has been having the same issues.
No, I'm going to be honest with you, Brian. I started that process and my boss refused to give me the request identification proof. So he gave me and I am not talking any smack about my boss, Megan. I'm not. So, but what I'm saying is, he says, that's ridiculous. You don't need that. Here's my business card. He gave me a copy of his business card. I finally went down to the local MVD. I literally went down there and the security guard tried to stop me at the door. And I told him, I said, dude, I've been trying for months to get an account. I've been doing that, this and that. And the guy literally goes, hey man, how many times a day did you try to call and make an appointment? I said 3 times a day. For how long? 2 weeks. How many was that? And I go, probably, all right. I go, okay, you caught me, Barney. It was probably like 21 times, not 24, 30 times. It was probably 21 to 25 times I tried to get an appointment. And he opened the door and there were 3 people in the entire building waiting to go to 17 windows. And I walked up and I licensed my 2 new white fleet trucks, walked out, was done. I paid my $8, and I pay that out of my pocket because I don't even want to go through the process to get $4. I licensed the trucks, and unbelievable, man, unbelievable. But I had to beg and use some charm, which I'm full of. I can tell you that, and get into the door. And when I got in, it was the greatest experience I've ever had at MVD. There were no lines. Nobody was in a hurry. And I did them. But that's what it took. I mean, I was at the end of the insurance. You've got to have your vehicle registered, period. And I just took a shot and drove down there.
I've been trying to get my CDL renewed, and I did it before online, but they'll only let you do it online once. And I was due in May, so I did it then. They gave me till November. Well, now it expired middle of last week. So now I was trying to get it redone again, and I have to go to the office. Well, I have a Rolodex with all the old CDL numbers in there. So I started going through most of them, and some of them are disconnected and no longer in service. And I saw one in there for Kevin Riddle, who hasn't been there in a while. So I called that number, somebody answered, and they finally told me, oh no, you don't need an appointment. Because I was trying to get an appointment and you can't get one. So they said, just go to Goodyear, walk in, and we'll take care of you with no appointment. I said, you're sure? Yeah, I'm coming from downtown Phoenix. Oh yeah, just go down there, either there or East Mesa, whatever's closer. So that's what I'm gonna do on Monday and see how it goes. But I always thought you had to have an appointment, and she's saying, no, if you're just renewing your license, just walk in. But you have to go to the CDL office. You can't do it. You can't just walk in at one of the regular MVD places.
Yeah, our CDL window is open and it's in the same building.
Yeah.
But everything else you need an appointment for.
So it's so interesting that we get all these different stories, because I had my lead mechanic just went straight down to the regular MVD office, was able to walk right in and get his license taken care of without an appointment. So, it just seems like it's almost location by location, depending on who wants to follow what rules. And, unfortunately, it's another state entity that we're, not getting.
Well, and what security guard is working the door too? Mine had a little empathy for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, that there's just no consistency, because I call the same office and get 2 or 3 different answers to the same question.
Yeah.
I'll have one tell me, well, this is the process you got to follow. So I start following that process and I get half the way through. They're like, oh no, you need just call that person again because they should have done it this way. I'm like, I understand, but they didn't,
Mm-hmm.
And one of the frustrating things about our office up here, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but once I did get an appointment, like half the windows, they're just calling people and making appointments. I'm like, you could get twice as many people through here in the same amount of time and still have 3 feet between them or 6 feet between them.
Mm-hmm.
And you got people on the phone the whole time instead of taking care of, people in front of them. So that pushes those appointments out even that much further.
Agreed.
And one important topic, Jason, are you recognizing like No Shave November or what? I mean, you got stuff going on.
I do it every day.
Right.
Is No Shave November.
I was just wondering if that was,
eventually I'm going to try and grow as long as you, Eric, and just have the goatee. So it was really gnarly the other day. I think it was even longer. It looks like you trimmed it up.
Grow with what Jason has right now. That would take like 2 years. So no shave for me doesn't mean anything.
Well, unless anybody else has any comments, I think we can wrap it up. If anybody else has anything pressing, we got about 5 minutes.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Be safe.
Right.
Same. All right. Real quick, while I got everybody on, then do we want to do maybe a session in January, like maybe the 3rd Friday in January, and we'll just schedule one out. And again, tell your friends, send the information. I mean, pretty much anybody who wants to get in on this, the more information, the better. So, pass the word on, and I'll send out an invite for like the 3rd Friday in January, and we can all reconnect.
Very good. Happy holidays, guys.
Are you gonna do it through the TAA list, Jason?
Yes, we'll push it out through the TAA email again.
Okay,
Correct.
would you make sure I'm on the list, please? Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Happy
You're welcome.
Thanksgiving to you all.
All
Have
right,
a
everybody.
Merry Christmas as well.
Yeah.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Jason,
See you all later.
can you
Yes.
add Angie on the list? She's my new operations manager.
Yeah, well, I have her email, but we just forwarded me an email just requesting that, so I can add her on there. All righty. Other than that, I will see everybody
Bye, guys.
later.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.